I think I'm a fantasy convert, as long as it's dark fantasy. We need to not shame people for loving what they love and reading what they want to read. I buy books faster than I read. It's a severe problem that I have. I don't even know how I acquired this book. And contemporary romance in general, like, there's just not enough danger in it for my liking. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Hello if you're new here, I'm so glad that you've joined. Thought I would do the beginning of the year book tag just to give you guys some idea of what my reading goals are and everything, and it's just basically an excuse to talk about some more books. So I got the questions off of Larry Reed's, I'm sure you all know her. As this point of me filming, I did set myself a goal to read 15 books in January, and what's the date today? Because obviously this isn't going to go up today, but it's the 17th today and I've already read 8 books, so I'm really happy with myself about that. I definitely want to make sure that I'm more on the flow of my reading this year, but, right, if you've seen my book haul, which if you haven't, I will link it down below, you'll get some kind of idea of the route that I'm taking with my reading this year. I am so excited to get really into my reading goal this year and everything, so it's gonna be a good year. I can feel it in my bones. I can feel it in my bones. So the first question is, how many books are you planning on reading in 2025? So I did set my Goodreads reading goal to 80 books. Last year I read 90 books, the year before that I read 103, and the year before that I read 120 something, I think. But I'd only started my Goodreads halfway into that year and started tracking my books. So, and I really enjoy tracking my books now. It's like one of my favourite things to do. I cannot wait. You know when you get to like the last chapter of a book and you're in my head, I'm like, I can update my Goodreads and do my review. I absolutely love it. I always do quite in-depth reviews over there. But yes, I've set my goal this year for 80 just because, you know, I don't want to feel stressed, I don't want to feel like I have to read loads and all that stuff, but I think 80 is a good amount, because if I still averaged 8 books a month, if my maths is correct, that means I would read 96 books. Have I just embarrassed myself? I don't know. So I think that's a good like reading goal, especially doing it around like work, YouTube, my BookTok account, riding my horses, like all that stuff. I think that's a good amount of books. So I've set it for 80. Hopefully I can read more than that. We'll soon find. We won't soon find out actually, because we've got a whole year to go, but we will find out. So the next question is a book that I'm likely to reread this year. It's none other than Credence. It has to be. It's Credence, because I've been waiting. I read this maybe 3 years ago now. I think 2 years ago. I've been waiting until I'm like, is it long enough where I can almost feel like I'm experiencing it for the first time again? This is one of, if not my favourite standalone romance book that I have ever read. And I know that this book isn't for everybody. I know that the subject matters in it are quite taboo. But what can I say? I mean, it's a taboo romance. Obviously, it's going to be taboo. It's not just the taboo-ness of the book, but it's actually the writing and the character arcs and the development of the characters in this that I just think is some of the best that I've read, and I think it's Penelope Douglas's best work. So, Credence, 100%. I did set myself, like I've written on my notes on my phone, that I do want to reread a lot more of my favourite books. So, honourable mentions to Flock, the first book in the Ravenhood trilogy, because I cannot ever read Exodus again, because I can't. Like, the emotional damage that book did to me, I don't think I can go through it again. But I do want to reread Flock. I want to reread the Devil's Night series. But in terms of a book that is 100% going to be reread, it's my baby Credence. So the next question is a priority read on your 2025 TBR. I mean, I have loads of priority reads, loads and loads, but if I'm thinking about a book that I maybe haven't spoken about a lot that I am desperate to read really soon, it's Anathema by Kerry Lake. Because I've read a few Kerry Lake books now. I think her writing is so good. I think nobody does gothic romance like Kerry Lake, and this is a fantasy, and I'm really enjoying fantasy. I want to read a lot more fantasy this year, so I'm gonna go with Kerry Lake and Anathema. This is meant to be so good. I haven't even seen people rate it averagely. I've only ever seen people rave about this book, so this is definitely a priority. I definitely want to read this in the first half of the year for sure, because my plan is dark romance standalones and the ones that have been sitting on my shelf for a while that I didn't get around to last year. I'm reading those in January and February, and then I'm going to start reading my fantasy books that are on my physical TBR, and I just cannot wait. I can't wait. I think I'm a fantasy convert, as long as it's dark fantasy. I think it needs to be like a darker fantasy, but if it's like ACOTAR, I don't know, just all fantasy. The next book is an author that I won't be reading any more books from this year. That's a difficult one, because I don't really feel like there are any authors that I really just don't like, but going off a book that I read by this author and that I just really didn't enjoy, and I actually DNF'd it, I'm going to say S. Massery. Now, I have already got the Hockey Gods series. I've got every book in that series on my bookshelf, so I may at some point finish that series just because I have those books, but I feel like I can tell when I read a book from an author whether I'm going to enjoy their work or not. And from what I read in Brutal Obsession, and you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I did not like her writing style. I didn't like the way that she wrote dark romance. I didn't like the way that she even wrote her characters and the way that she developed them. Everything was so surface level. There wasn't much depth to the characters. I thought the writing was just okay. And I think when you write dark romance, I do think you've got to do it good, because obviously the themes and the storylines in dark romance are so, well, sometimes they're far-fetched, but sometimes they're not, because they can obviously be storylines that, you know, that actually happens to people in real life. But that kind of dark romance series where it's just basically red flag MMCs, I just did not connect with that book at all. I got 70% in. The book is 600 pages, so I read a hell of a lot of it and I still DNF'd it. I tried so hard. I just don't think that she's going to be for me. So, and I've seen other romances that she writes, like dark hockey romances still, and hockey romances. Hockey romance is not my favourite genre anyway, so I can't imagine myself picking up anything else by her. But, you know, never say never. The next question is something new that I want to read. So there's loads of books. There's loads of books that I knew that I want to read, but two just came straight to my mind when I was thinking about it. So the first book is The City of Gods and Monsters. This is the House of Devils series by Kayla Edwards, and it's urban fantasy romance, but obviously it has, you know, it's dark urban fantasy romance, and is this kind of genre of dark fantasy is not something that I've really delved into that much, which I'm definitely going to be reading a hell of a lot more of this year, because I absolutely adore it. And urban fantasy as well is not really much that I've read. So urban fantasy is basically fantasy in a modern day setting, so like literally the world as we know it now, but imagine you had just like devils and vampires and God knows what walking amongst us. That is what an urban fantasy is, and I really like that idea. I think I maybe have only read one or two of those previously, so I really want to try and read more of it this year, and just fantasy in general. And also something new that I want to read this year is Baldwin and Lies by Victoria Wilder. Now this is more on the romantic suspense, like thriller side of everything. I don't read enough of these, and I think it's because sometimes when I pick them up, I really want something really twisty, and they just never are they? Most of the time that they never are, but this feels like it mixes a lot of my favourite things. So darker themes in romance, thriller, mystery elements. Romantic suspense is actually, I love that subgenre, but I don't feel like I have loads and loads of those on my shelves, and I find them really exciting. I think it brings another level to just normal romance books. If I'm not reading fantasy or like a really dark romance, I think a romantic suspense is the next best thing for me. So I want to try and read a few more of those, and I think this is where I'm going to start. This is on my TBR for this month, and that's where I'm going to start. I've heard really good things about it. If you have any romantic suspense books that you can recommend me, then leave them in the comments below, because I'll be looking for more. I don't need to be buying any more books, but at least I can add them onto my cart. Save it for later, right? The saved for later cart. Next question is a popular book that you want to read. So as I've said, enjoying fantasy, and I really want to get round to When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. Now I do hear mixed reviews about this. I think some people say they find the world building not very good or a bit confusing, but then other people say it's one of the best books that they've ever read and it's like an Infinity Star read. All I know is that I think it's about literally the moon falling. Or something like that, I'm not sure. The thing with me is I try now when I'm reading people's reviews, if it's really, really in-depth about the whole story and all the characters, I try to avoid those, because I like to go into my books now with less information than previously, because otherwise I think that when I pick them up, I almost adopt other people's opinions on the book before I've even read it, so I try to steer clear of those. So I don't know a lot about this. I just know that there's dragons in it though, and I love fantasy romances that have got dragons in them. Like I haven't ever read high fantasy or anything like that. That is something I'd love to get into maybe next year once I've got a few more fantasy books under my belt, but I feel like for me When the Moon Hatched seems to be kind of like the next best thing, where it's a little bit more complex than say Akatar, and it's just, I don't know, it seems like a bit of a stepping stone for me, and it's got dragons. So I'm sold. Naturally, I'm sold already. The next one is my most anticipated 2025 book release, and without even a shadow of a doubt, it is Psychotic Obsession by Lee Rivers. You'll know what that book is about if you've read the Edge of Darkness trilogy, but if you haven't, there is a character in that, Tobias Mitchell, who is Cade's father, and he is one of the best side characters ever to be written in any book ever. I am completely obsessed with him, and he is going to get his own book following his life. We get some sort of like breadcrumbs in The Edge of Darkness as to what happened with him and his love interest, and he's getting a book, and I literally cannot wait to read it because the way Lee Rivers writes in general is amazing. Tobias Mitchell's character is just absolutely phenomenal, and the fact that he's getting his own book I'm so excited for, and I don't think that release is far away. It's definitely in the next couple of months, so I'm very excited for it. Next question is a bookish goal for 2025. So I have set myself a couple of bookish goals. One of my main goals, like I said, was to reread some of my favourite books. I do really want to reread the Magnolia Parks universe as well. And another goal that I've set myself is to read or try and read one sports or contemporary romance a month, because I've got loads of those on my shelves and I have such a love-hate relationship. I think contemporary romance to me is a difficult one. I find like rom-coms and things like that, I just don't gel with them that much. I think they have to be really, really good, really, really funny. I have to really love the characters and be really invested in their story to enjoy it. And I just find that most of the time I just don't. And contemporary romance in general, like there's just not enough danger in it for my liking. And then also sports romances are another genre that I just kind of neglect. I don't dislike sports romance, but for some reason I just haven't read that many of them, so I definitely want to try and read more of those. So I thought that's a fair goal to set myself, one of those a month. I think that's doable. If I can tear myself away from the darkness for just more than 20 seconds, that could be doable. So the next question is a book that's been on my TBR that I probably won't ever read. And this book came to mind straight away because it's quite a big book. It stares me in the face every time I go to bed. And that is Anastasia by Sophie Lark. Now this is a historical romance, but I think it's got some I think it's more like magical realism. I think. This was released a while ago. First of all, the reason why I don't think I'm ever going to read it is because for a romance book to me to be this long, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Now I know I sound like a hypocrite because I love the Magnolia Park series. I'm yet to read Into the Dark and that's about 700 pages. But to me, because it's Magnolia and BJ's last book, I can understand why. Because I've read that series, I can 100% see why it's going to take 700 pages to wrap up their story, and I'm okay with that. But for some reason with this book, I don't know what it is. It doesn't grip me. I think at the time I thought it sounded really fun. Historical romance as well anyway in general just isn't, I don't read that many of them. It's not something I tend to reach for. I love Sophie Lark though, but this book just does not speak to me at all. And I just honestly don't know if I'm ever going to read it. Never say never. But if so, it's probably going to be in a couple of years because I've got way too many books on my physical TBR that I really, really want to read to spend however long it's going to take me to get through 700 pages of this book. That it's just never, I don't even know how I acquired this book, to be completely honest with you. I've had it for a while and I just never have looked at it and thought, oh, let me add that into monthly TBR, you know? Next question is a series that I want to read this year. So this is the Sugar Link series by Emily McIntyre. Now, I really, really enjoy Emily McIntyre. She kind of falls into like a Sophie Lark author for me, you know, just easy, fun, you have a great time, you can fly through their books. Now, this is a contemporary romance series, so it can help me with my other goals, and it's an interconnected standalone that follows like a group of young adults, I think, or like 21-year-olds, or maybe even younger than that, I'm not 100% sure, and it just follows them through sort of like the trials and tribulations of being that age and falling in love and having your heart broken, having mental health issues, all of that kind of stuff. Like I say, because it's interconnected, that's one of my favourite types of series to read. And there's 4 books in it, and we've got Beneath the Stars, which is actually the first book, and then Beneath the Stands is book 2, book 3, which is Beneath the Hood, and then we've got book 4, which is Beneath the Surface. I've had this series, I want to say, for about nearly 2 years now, and it is something that I really need to read because that's another kind of goal of mine, that books that I've sort of had sat on my shelves for a long time, I do want to read them. I don't buy books for the sake of it, so every book that I own is a book that I really want to read. It's just, I buy books faster than I read. It's a severe problem that I have, and then I get really excited to read the new books, and then sometimes books just get forgotten about, and that's kind of what happened with this series. But yeah, I want to get around to it this year at some point. I think in the summer. These covers just scream summertime to me. Next one is my auto by authors going into 2025. Right, so first up, I mean, this is the easiest question ever. Monty J, absolutely 100% Monty J. Saffron Kent, love her. Lee Rivers as well. They are the 3 that right off the top of my head have become auto by authors that I recently discovered like in the last year. Anything they write, I will buy. I will be pre-ordering, I'll be running to Amazon on release day, I will be rereading for the rest of my life, most likely, because they just can do no wrong in my eyes. And I just think that the actual prose of their writing is so beautiful and it's just so good, and I'm obsessed with them. Next question is a book to show adaptation you're excited about this year. That's a difficult one to answer because I don't follow that kind of thing where I'm like, I know what's being adapted into like TV shows or films or anything, so I can't really answer that one. I know that Colleen Hoover has got 2 more coming, I think Verity and something else, I think it's Regretting You, that are going to be made into like films or something, but I'm not a Colleen Hoover fan anymore. Like that was like 4 or 5 years ago for me. I'm just not really that kind of reader anymore. And also I think to me, I get very nervous when things are being made into TV shows because my imagination runs wild with me when I'm reading, and I think if anything's gonna change how I pictured my favourite characters and how I pictured my favourite story, I don't know how I feel about it. If it wasn't how it was in my head, am I gonna love it? That's how I feel about adaptations, so I can't really answer that question. Next is a sequel that you're anticipating. So without a doubt, it is the second book to the second gen of the Hollow Boys series by Monty J. I can't remember the title of it, so I will add it in when I find out. Wrath of an Exile released at the end of last year, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Like I say, she's one of my favourite authors, and she has confirmed that that book is going to be released at the end of the year. I needed it yesterday, but it's okay, Monty J. I'll wait for you to work your magic. I can be patient. I can try and be patient. Next one is bookish things that you're leaving in 2024. I don't really know how to answer that one. I think on a personal level, it's just reading too many reviews and too many people like talking about the storylines and everything of books before I've even read them myself. Just more looking at the star ratings, whether I think, you know, get the general gist of whether I think a book is going to be good. And also just on a bit of a deeper level, and this isn't like something I do, but just people that slate other readers for what they want to enjoy and what they want to read just because you don't like it. That is something that collectively, like the bookish community needs to stop doing. And we need to forget about that. We need to not shame people for loving what they love and reading what they want to read. Reading is so subjective. Everybody wants different things out of their books. Everybody looks for different feelings and things out of their books. So who are we to tell somebody else what they can and can't like? Like some of my close bookish friends read books that I hated and rate them 5 stars, and it's the same, it's vice versa. That doesn't mean that I then get to say like, oh, how could you enjoy that? Or when it comes to dark romance, you know, I get it, it's not going to be for everybody, so just don't read the book. And then, you know, at the end of the day, these are words on paper. They are fictional words on paper. It's fiction, and let's just not shame other readers for liking what they like and enjoying what they enjoy, okay? That's just my little rant for that, because there's been a lot of that going around at the moment. Let's just look at it as the fact that we all share the same hobby and all love the same thing, which is reading at the end of the day, and that's where it needs to be left at. And we need to be leaving that stuff in 2024. What to expect from this account? So, I mean, obviously, naturally, I want to do more vlogs this year. Vlogs take the longest to edit and just do in general. And obviously for me, like I still work, I've got horses to do outside of work, and obviously I want to still have time to be able to read and do what I love doing. So I'd love to be able to vlog a lot more on this account. Do let me know like what vlogs you want to see. I want to do more 24-hour reading challenges and all of that good stuff. And also just maybe try and do some more regular uploads. My uploads were really good throughout November and December, and I absolutely loved it. I had such a great time filming those things and editing them and uploading them for you all. So maybe a few more regular uploads. I'm definitely going to stick to my once a week. I'm going to try and do twice a week, a little bit more here and there. Yeah, I just want to see where this channel takes me, because to be completely honest, I did not expect it to even get to where it is now in the last year, and I'm so grateful for it. So thank you to everybody who's been along with me on this journey anyway, like whether you subscribed today or whether you subscribed on the 6th of January last year when I uploaded my first video. Just thank you so much. I'm just having the best time. I'm having the best time. How has my reading taste evolved from last year? So I think the most obvious, the way I've been talking throughout this tag anyway, is that dark fantasy is now my complete and utter vibe. Like I said, I feel like I've really, over the last couple of years, defined my reading taste. I know what I like and what I don't like, and it's really exciting because it makes me really excited to get reading. But definitely just like reading way more fantasy and dark fantasy. I feel like I've been missing out on not reading enough fantasy over the last couple of years, so definitely that's how much that's changed. Like, I didn't ever think I'd be a fantasy reader, if I'm being completely honest. my mind has been completely changed. It really has. And I think I can actually thank, I mean, I read ACOTAR and Throne of Glass and they were amazing, but I think who doesn't love those series? Whether even if you've never read a book before, you could pick up ACOTAR and have the best time. But Zodiac Academy, I think for me, when I read the first 3 books in August last year, really changed it. And I was like, I feel like I'm missing out here. I need to delve into this side of books a hell of a lot more. Booktube creators who inspire you. So I've got a couple. So the first one is Sarah. Honestly, I love watching her reading vlogs and her vlog style and her content in general. I think she's really great. I love her energy. She's just so lovely and like so cozy to watch. And then Mariana Reed, so we're mutuals from Book Talk anyway, and I just love like her energy. She's just great. We have very similar reading tastes and she's literally just joined and I just think she's so fun. Like her TikToks I've always enjoyed watching and I'm so glad that she's here on Booktube now. And also just like Sarah Crowley, like I've watched her Booktube for so long, like for years and years at this point, and I feel like she's like my comfort YouTuber, and I always used to watch her and I was like, I really, really want to do what she does and create bookish, like more long form bookish content, because on my TikTok, I've had that for over 2 years now and I've created like the best community over there. I love the app in general. I love that it's like very quick and to the point, and it's great for like short content, but for a while I was really wanting to create longer form content, the stuff that I was watching Sarah do, and I just absolutely love the long form styles of Booktube. I think it's cozier, you can get more in depth. I love the vlogging style of everything. I love the editing. So it's just the best decision I ever made. So thank you to those creators. There are so many creators who inspire me. Like I'm subscribed to so many. I watch their reviews. Like there's the Raven-haired Reader. I watch her stuff all the time. I watch what Emmy reads all the time. Like there are just so many creators that have contributed to me even starting a channel and inspiring me to start one, but those are the ones that come to mind immediately. Something I want to say to anyone starting a bookish account. Honestly, just do it. Literally just do it. When I started my TikTok, which ultimately led to me starting a booktube, I was so scared of what people were going to think. What if my friends come along and see it? What if nobody wants to watch it? What if I'm just talking? Who cares? Who cares whether you get 10 views or whether you get 150,000 views? At the end of the day, you're talking about something that you love, and if that reaches just one person and inspires them to read or start a new hobby or take up this hobby that we all love so much, then you have done a great job. Don't worry about what anybody thinks and just be yourself. Whether you think you're too much this or too much that, or I'm too shy or I'm too loud, like you won't be too much for anybody. Just be yourself, be your genuine self and start. You know, if you want to start a booktube and you feel like you don't have a fancy camera, like that doesn't matter. So use your phone. You can do it with your phone and you've got more than enough. Like you've got everything you need right here to start a social media account to do with books. And I think that it's just such, like the community, like the bookish community is one of the most loving communities ever. I think everybody is just so lovely, so don't worry about what anybody thinks, and who cares if people that you know find it. Like my best friends ended up finding my account and now they all follow it. They come to me for bookish recommendations and they follow my TikTok, and I used to think the stuff I'm posting on there, it makes me cringe. Like, why is it cringy for talking about something that you love? I mean, we're talking about books, for God's sake. It's just such an amazing hobby. Like, I mean, obviously we're all passionate about it. That's why you're either probably watching this video or that's why I'm here making this video. Don't be too scared to just take a step out of your comfort zone. Let's make that like a thing for 2025, stepping out of our comfort zone and just seeing where things take you, because you just never know, right? You just never know what's going to happen. The best thing that you can do is just start. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Nobody's going to watch it. But the thing is, that's not even going to happen. So anyway, that wraps up the New Year book tag. Thank you so much for watching my video, guys. Again, thank you so much for this last year on YouTube. I appreciate every single one of you so much. I love you all. Thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you guys in my next one.